After university, my friend Jess moved back to the drab town we'd grown up in. Worked in a pub there, the Man in the Moon. On the sign swinging from a bracket over its shabby frontage, a wan, flabby face hung in a night sky strewn with stylised stars. The landlord liked having Jess behind the bar. She was very pretty in a sickly English rose kind of way, dark, unkempt hair framing a round face, pallid complexion with a hectic flush to her cheeks, which brought in the punters. Not that they needed much encouragement. The beer was always acrid with the taint of lime cleaner, but was so cheap it made boozing in the local spoons seem wanton, if more pleasant. The garish patterned carpet in the Man in the Moon was always sticky in inverse proportion to the prices. Among the pub's regular day drinkers was a short man with a coxcomb of grey hair. His skin was not so much sallow as grey, like plumber's putty. He mostly sat sullenly sipping from glasses of cheap scotch with chasers of strong Czech lager, but when drunk would now and again sing a snatch of an old song in a soft, quavery voice. And when I do wander here and there, I then do most go right. He would also become animated when at quiet times Jess played 80s music videos on the pub's TV. He'd point at the screen and say, "That light, those colours, that's what the light there is like." Jess would humour him and nod. His English was good, but he had a strong accent she couldn't place. "And the pale moon shines by night." He placed an emphasis on the adjective. "That's why I first came in here," he went on. "The sign outside." Jess shrugged. "But that moon's got a face." "Yes." He trailed off and swigged at his whiskey. One day he hid in the toilets when a group of lads in some kind of archaic fancy dress came in. It was a stag party, maybe. After that, he never came back. Jess sometimes wondered what had happened to him. Then she started having dreams in which he wandered under the sickly light of a strange moon, tramped across moorland of sere witchgrass and sprawling gorse, slogged over hills rocky and bleak, where kites soared and piped, circling for carrion, fought through rank woods where reddish swine rooted and rutted in tangled undergrowth. They unsettled her, she said, these dreams, but felt little different from any ordinary nightmare. But then the border between sleep and waking seemed to grow porous. One time she dreamt of cowering in a hedge, hiding from a rabbit the size of an elephant with blood-red eyes, then woke with burrs in her hair. On another, she spent the night shackled in a basement with the smell of loam and camphor in her nostrils, being force-fed a bland mush of boiled tubers by folk with faces painted blue and feathers in their hair. That time, when she'd been roused by her alarm, she'd felt sick, and her ankles and wrists had been bruised and chafed. Eventually the dreams got so bad that to dull them, Jess began drinking heavily herself. I lost touch with her after that. An old acquaintance told me she'd gone up north to move in with someone she'd met online, but I thought it odd she hadn't let me know. A few years later, I was back in town, visiting my parents, and went out for a drink with some friends. On the walk back home at the end of the evening, I came across an unhealthy-looking man in motley rags who was ranting about how he'd been beaten and robbed. I talked to him a bit, then gave him some money to get into the local shelter for the night. When I got back to the house, I found a corner torn from a newspaper tucked into my coat pocket. Scrawled on it were the words, "It was the sweet of the year." I don't know what to make of all this. Jess I've never seen or heard tell of again, but sometimes I hear that man singing in my dreams, that man whose skin was the flat grey of spoilt fish. "Why?" he warbles. Then comes in the sweet of the year, for the red blood reigns in the winter's pale.